once a drug product gets into a phase 1 human trial, how do you then accelerate the movement of that particular molecule through each of the successive phases and get as quickly as possible with relevant, rich, good quality data into the regulator's hands? These days, there's just a lot of data that's getting collected in the real world scenario. Getting that data when, let's say, a drug gets approved, it then gets prescribed to the masses. Mm-hmm. You know, the fact that we're talking about genomic and we're talking about biomarkers, the ability of a drug to be as effective in me versus you could be different. And that doesn't necessarily get proven during the clinical trials. All you're proving is it safe? Is it efficacious? I'm good, right? If you have data to support it. But in the real world, the efficacy aspects could be differing, right? So we measure a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So my entire focus is first to bring in tools to speed up the identification of research sites, where the patients could be recruited, how quickly could they be recruited, how quickly could we set up and collect the relevant data, just the right amount of data. The clinical trial protocol is a guiding document, and they're usually very bloated. They collect all kinds of data. So is it nimble, agile? Am I just collecting sufficient information for me to be able to prove to the regulatory body that it's safe and effective? So taking these steps through the development phase would help accelerate Jaspreet. These steps are incremental, but when you string them and connect the dots, they will actually deliver a very good outcome of shrinking the elapsed time and the cost involved. So getting drugs faster into patients, right, safe and effective ways of those therapies is number one. And there are tools, by the way, and AI is playing a significant role there.
You know, it was a well-known statement by the then President Nixon, saying that they wanted to defeat cancer in 10 years, and we are nowhere close to that, and there are good reasons for that. But probably at that point of time, they did not have such powerful tools. And one of the promises, well, there are lots of perils of AI, but one of the promises of AI is that hopefully it'll be a kind of intelligence which will help us do things which human intelligence has not yet been able to. And I know you are addressing one part of that, and you know what you just described in your, but do you think, and that's why I said it's going to be a little provocative, that the Nixonian vision of cancer being quote-unquote defeated, not 100%, but to a large extent, is something which AI could play a part in that?
Like I said, before, cancer is very complicated and complex problem and start at molecular level. So before that, people even do not know that, what the changes are happening. I give you a very simple example. If that stage of the cancer has took 10 years to develop, and you kill with some medicine or something, it will develop again in 10 years. That's how he relapses the cancer. That's how he comes back. Because it took 10 years to build this tumor, and then you kill that tumor, again, your body will take some time to rebuild it. But it will never go away, because the reason is, molecular stage, what is happening, we are not controlling that. And when we are not controlling at molecular level, so that means any things we are doing, we are just buying the time. We are just extending that, cancer's life of that person. That's what we are doing. Technically, we are not treating them. And if you look at the treatment so far, whatever we have, 30, 40 years, whatever the drugs are, they are still the same drugs we are using. And only what we did it, we are using with the help of the genomic sequencing, a cocktail. Like earlier, we used to give just one drug, two drugs. Now we are doing a combination of the drugs based on what the genomic sequencing I'm getting from the tumor. So technically what we did, we just little bit modified the treatment. We just added some new tool to actually correct it. But technically, we have not have any kind of the molecule develop which we can say, okay, this is going to help you improve. So our idea is, if we start learning at the molecular level the changes happening, so that could be a target in the future to block that molecular change. So that way we will not allow that molecule to go further. That only we can do with the artificial intelligence. Because human at working at molecular level and trying to develop that structures will be very challenging. So only the AI can help us to actually understand the molecular change, and then as the molecular change is changing, and then we can think about the target. That is also AI will decide actually. So then we have the combination which we can block that change, and then there is a possibility the cancer can be, we can stop it for a significant long period of time.
First, do no harm is obviously comes from the medical field. But as AI practitioners, we often think of that too. Because, AI also has the potential to do harm. And especially when you intersect a very powerful field which can do harm like AI with perhaps the field which is the most sensitive to it, which is medical science and biosciences, etc., around medical science. So, starting with you, Dr. Kumar, what do you think are the ethical issues around everything that we have spoken about, and how should we look at that and tackle that?
Thank you. I will like to give you one example, very interesting, is like the people are using AI for the MRI readings, MRI. So what they do is the MRI they send, and then the AI technology is read the lesions of the MRI. But when we do not want to apply directly to the patient that data or results what we are getting, because many times those lesions are only read by the AI is not relevant to the issues. They just see some spot, they just read it and tell you, hey, here is a cancer possibility, here is a this. But technically they are not correct. So what we want to do in the AI is, so first to generate the data and then create the logical actually approach, so that it should be actually a realistic approach, not just a hypothetical or AI created report, so that people will be misguided, or maybe you are misdiagnosing, or maybe you technically is not diagnosing anything. So ethical means like we have to be very careful when we are using AI in this type of, but mostly in the drug discovery, if you take the another part, like when we are like a chemist, I started as a student, so we used to create a library of the molecules, then start testing one by one, take years to come up one of the biologically active molecule. But with the AI, what we do is we have the like a molecular changes we understand, then we create the molecule which can target and look at the bioactivity by the AI, then only 5 molecules or 2 molecules are there, which one of them can lead as a drug. So that is the positive approach of the AI. Actually, AI we can use as a tool to analyze the data, not just to treat, because AI, what I say is, do not actually able to do the innovation. Only the human can do the innovation. It's just a tool to collect a lot of data and analyze, because you know what, human cannot analyze a lot of data together. They can analyze a small data at one time. They take very long time to analyze a big data. That's the good things AI can do for you in a very fast, in a few minutes or seconds or hour. But innovation AI cannot do.
I think the kind of work which is repetitive, where it doesn't necessarily require a human to do all of the heavy lifting, I think those are pretty safe, if you will. That's my personal opinion. And I think we've been testing this for quite a while. Ever since ChatGPT got launched to its latest avatars now, we've been tracking this very closely as a company. But to Doctor's point, clearly, I think we need to be extremely careful when it comes to sensitive data, ensure data privacy is absolutely managed well. And then surveillance is something which we have to be watchful for, as in, once we feed and have access to a lot of data, do we have all of those compliance measures in place? Do we have the consents in place, if you will? Is it de-identified, if you will? What's my end objective? So on and so forth, right? So when it comes to science and medicine, I think absolutely that human element has to be finally responsible for any decisions to be made. When it comes to basic routine work, that's where I was touching upon things. Content writing, creating documents and so on and so forth, you could certainly do that. I also would caution that once we kind of use some of this increasingly in terms of data, bias and discrimination is something which we have to watch out for. The world today is such that we're talking about making it diverse, diversity, equity, and inclusion are being talked about quite a bit now. As in, clinical trials should not just recruit, let's say, one segment of the population. We should have a good representation, well-stratified patient population. And for us to do that stuff, if we come up with inherent biases, which the machine could potentially do, by the way, so we have to be careful. So having guardrails like this, Jaspreet, and having checks and balances would ensure that we're using it for the right purpose and steering clear of those where we believe that it's inappropriate, it's unethical.
Well, what we don't need is a hallucinating doctor, okay, which is what GPT tends to have. And I just wanted to end this with a little story, a true story, and no provocative question, just a story. This is a true story. This happened with GPT-4, and sometime in April of this year, when someone's dog fell very ill, and he took the dog to a vet, and the vet prescribed something. The dog kept on feeling worse. After 7 days, he did what he should not do, which is went to GPT and out of desperation. And basically, after a few prompts, GPT-4 gave 3 possibilities, could be wrong. 2 of them had been addressed by the vet. The third one had not been discussed by the vet. And so this guy goes to the vet and says, could it be this? And he says, yeah, possible, yeah, we should look at it. And so he went, then the vet prescribed the medicines for the third particular issue, and the dog became better. So I think the thing is, what this story tells you is that, look, it's not that you can replace the vet. I mean, but it's a tool, as both of you rightly said, which could help you, because at the end of it, we are human beings. We don't know everything all the time. And, something which can crunch such massive amounts of data with deep learning, etc., expertise could possibly help you augment. And this is a true story which helps us do that. So thank you very much. Thank you, sirs, for your very fascinating discussion. I learned a lot.